بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. If you have any questions, please don't post them now. Please wait until the second live stream, inshallah ta'ala, that will be devoted just to questions, because we're going to stop this live stream, and obviously if you send questions, those questions will be lost and they will not take priority with regards to being answered in the actual question and answer live stream. Inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan for understanding. So tonight's lesson will be on Lu'Lu wal-Marjan فيما اتفق عليه الشيخان. We've reached the 22nd chapter from the book of fasting under hadith number 697. Alhamdulillah, we'll be coming up on the 700 hadith mark. So congratulations to everyone who was listening, watching, benefiting, inshallah ta'ala. And perhaps, I'm sure there are a few brothers and sisters who watched every single class from the beginning, the first time that we started this holy expedition of explaining these hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim. So we're coming on the 700 hadith mark. Those who watched every class, or the majority of the classes, who caught most of the explanations, or those who missed the classes but then went back and watched and listened and benefited, congratulations to you. And as we say, every time we reach another milestone, it isn't a small thing. It's not a minor thing. It's a major thing. Walillahi alhamd, a major accomplishment to have successfully studied 700 hadiths in order and cohesive nature, all authentic from Bukhari and Muslim from beginning until the 700 mark. That's a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment. And just having the ability to go through a book, stay consistent with one book, and there lies no doubt, if you have 700 hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim with a traditional classical explanation and the modern day benefits and extractions and the different debates and rulings that can be taken from those hadiths, that's a solid foundation to stand upon in Aqidah. That's a solid foundation to stand upon in tafsir. It's a solid foundation to stand upon in fiqh, in akhlaq, and all other aspects and spheres of al-Islam. So congratulations to you brothers and sisters for that. And I'm happy and I'm proud, alhamdulillah, to have been used for this service. And many people, they don't even teach books of hadith, books of sunnah, or they teach chapters, they start, they stop, they quit. Walillahi alhamd, most people are caught up teaching this book, this one, fulan, 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 fulan. But we're talking about the meat and the potatoes, Bukhari and Muslim. That's the vertebrae, and that's the backbone of Islam after the Quran al-Kareem. طيب. So it says, باب النهي عن صوم يوم الفطر ويوم الأضحى. حديث عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال هذان يومان. طيب, we've done that one, F1. Rather, forgive my negligence, my carelessness. We're on the 700 hadith mark. We're on chapter number 24. Chapter number 24, and obviously 23 is missing. It says, باب كراهة صيام الجمعة منفردا. حديث جابر عن محمد بن عباد قال سألت جابر رضي الله عنه نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صوم يوم الجمعة قال نعم. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا يصومن أحدكم يوم الجمعة إلا يوما قبله أو بعده. So it states, it is disliked to observe fasting on Friday alone. It is disliked to point out, to select, and to single out the day of Jum'ah with fasting. It is something which isn't recommended. It is not obligatory. It's not mubah. It's either going to be haram or makruh. And obviously the word karaha or karahiyya or kurh or makruh doesn't necessarily fall under the restriction of the terminology of the later fuqaha. Rather, the word kariha, makruh, can also mean muharram, as it's mentioned in many verses in the Quran al-Kareem, or many places in the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, inna Allah kariha lakum. Okay, wa kariha lakum thalathan. Allah kariha, three things for you. Okay, kana inda rabb kullu dhalika kana sayyihu inda rabbika makruhan. All right, so the word makruh literally means hated. And there are certain things which are haram, and they can be also called makruh, according to the English language, and according to the speech of many earlier ulama. From them are the four imams. And then the later scholars came along, scholars of usul al-fiqh and scholars of fiqh, and they specified It made the term makruh exclusive to that which is not haram, but it's best to avoid. If you stay away from it intentionally, you get a reward. And if you do it, you will not get a punishment and you will not deserve sin from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that is not the original organic meaning of the word. Rather, it can be used for something which is from the kaba'ir, from the major sins. طيب. So, we have here that it is not obligatory, it's not recommended, it's not mubah, either haram or disliked, for a person to say, I want to fast just on Friday. As far as 3 days out of every month, as far as I'm making up days, 6 days of Shawwal, a woman who missed fasting because of menstruation or breastfeeding or pregnancy, as far as I'm fasting the fast of Dawood, as far as Thursday, etc., etc. But for someone to say, I want to fast just on Friday because it's Friday, it's Jum'ah Mubarakah, there's a special virtue, etc. That is something which is not to be done, and it is to be avoided in the Sunnah. That's what we're going to study in this chapter. First hadith number 700. It says, narrated Muhammad ibn Abad, I asked Jabir, did the Prophet ﷺ forbid observing fasting on Fridays? He replied, yes. Hadith 701 is narration of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. I heard the Prophet ﷺ saying, none of you should observe Sawm on Friday unless he observes a day before or after it. So we have two hadiths. First is the hadith of Jabir, and second is the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, which clearly mention the same point, is that one is not to point out and single out this day with siyam. Period. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this issue and the explanation of Sahih Muslim, he says, وفي هذه الأحاديث الدلالة الظاهرة لقول جمهور أصحاب الشافعي وموافقيهم أنه يكره إفراد يوم الجمعة بالصوم إلا أن يوافق عادة له، فإن وصله بيوم قبله أو بعده أو وافق عادة له بأن نظر أن يصوم يوم شفاء مريضه أبدا فوافق يوم الجمعة لم يكره لهذه الأحاديث. He says, first and foremost is, most of the Shafi'i disciples, most of them, and those who agree with them, meaning the other scholars outside of the Shafi'i school, they hold the view, he says here, is that a person should not single out the day of Jumu'ah, and that is disliked to do so. As far as one who has an ada, I normally fast like this and like that, no problem. As far as the day before or day after, no problem. As far as one who made a vow, and the sick person that he asked Allah to cure, oh Allah, if you cure my sick grandmother, I'll fast the day for your sake. Oh Allah, if you give shifa to my young son who's in the hospital, who has an abnormal or some type of illness, I'll fast for your sake. And alhamdulillah, he becomes cured on Thursday night. She becomes cured on Friday morning, and the person didn't eat or drink, etc. after the adhan. And he says, I'm going to fast, I'm going to fulfill my vow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And obviously we're not speaking about the types of nadhr vows, but this is a type of vow. And this is known as an-nadhrul muqayyad, a restricted vow. And many scholars say that this type of vow is disliked in itself, based off of the hadith, إِنَّ النَّذْرَ لَا يَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ وَإِنَّمَا يُسْتَخْرَجُ بِهِ مِنَ الْبَخِيلِ. That the nadhr never brings good, and it's only used to take worship out of a stingy person, a stingy servant. Meaning, Allah has to give you something or do something for you in order for you to do something extra for Him. But we're not here to discuss the rulings of nadhr, the rulings of vows right here. What's important is a person has made that vow. Oh Allah, if you cure my sick grandmother from corona, from COVID-19, I'll fast for your sake. And on that day, or the next day, whatever the case or whatever the issue happens, it's time to fast, and it's Friday. If that's the case, then it is not disliked. There's nothing wrong with that, based off of these hadiths. And this is the view of most of the fuqaha, most of the scholars of fiqh, most of the jurists. They hold the view that it is lawful to do this with that condition, and it is not absolutely haram to fast on Fridays and to single out the Friday. طيب. وأما قول مالك في الموطأ لم أسمع أحدا من أهل العلم والفقه ومن به يقتدى نهى عن صيام يوم الجمعة وصيامه حسن وقد رأيت بعض أهل العلم يصومه وأراه كان يتهراه فهذا الذي قاله هو الذي رآه وقد رأى غيره خلاف ما رآه هو والسنة مقدمة على ما رآه هو وغيره وقد ثبت النهي عن صوم يوم الجمعة فيتعين القول به ومالك معذور فإنه لم يبلغ قال داودي من أصحاب مالك لم يبلغ مالكا هذا الحديث ولو بلغه لم يخالفه. Imam Nawawi then discusses the second view, and that is the view of Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah. Listen carefully, guys. Once again, like we always do, we're going to get a golden principle, or rather we're going to get several golden principles from this speech, several gems and jewels with regards to fiqh, with regards to al-ittiba', with regards to the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and with regards to the true way of the pious predecessors, and not like the way of those who have monopolized the term, and those who have hijacked the term, and those who have nothing to do with the core essence of sunnah and ilm and ulama and following the salaf as-salih, with regards to blind following, with regards to fanaticism, with regards to bigotry, and with regards to just being so staunch and following one person and listening to one person, so on and so forth. Tayyib, moving forward. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I've never heard of any scholar, any knowledgeable or learned person, any role model from the ulama forbidding the day of Jum'ah for persons to fast on. I've never heard of anyone saying that you can't fast and you shouldn't fast on that day. I haven't heard any faqih, any alim, any Islamic role model saying that you should not fast on that day. Then Imam Malik, he says, وَصِيَامُهُ حَسَنٌ, and fasting on the day of Jum'ah is a good thing. It's a virtue. It's a meritorious thing. Then he says, وَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ بَعْضَ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ يَصُومُهُ, and I myself, I have seen many people of knowledge fasting on this day, meaning not Ramadan. Not Ramadan. Tayyib. He says here, and وَأُرَاهُ كَانَ يَتَحَرَّاهُ, and I saw some of these scholars searching for Jum'ah, looking for it, meaning to single it out. I want to fast on Friday, not Thursday, not Saturday, but I want to pick out Jum'ah, the virtues of Jum'ah, etc. So that's the speech of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala in his book Muwatta. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, this is what Imam Malik said, and that's what he ra'ahu, that's his view, that's his opinion, that's his thought, that's what he thinks and feels, and other scholars think, feel, have seen other than that. There are other ulama who have other views and other opinions, not exactly and going hand in hand with Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala in his view. Now he says, وَالسُّنَّةُ مُقَدَّمَةٌ, and the sunnah must take precedence over anyone, everyone, anything, any person, culture, tradition, etc. The sunnah comes first. The sunnah is not after the statement of a scholar, or madhab, or culture, or tradition, or science, or politician, etc. The sunnah comes first. He says here, so the sunnah must come first. It is above and beyond what he and others besides him have seen and thought. And there is an authentic hadiths on the prohibition of fasting the day of Jum'ah. فَيَتَعَيَّنَ الْقَوْلُ بِهِ. Therefore, it is a must that we adopt it. It's a must. يَتَعَيَّن. It's not a choice. And listen carefully, guys. When people ask about madhabs, is it a bid'ah to have a madhab, to follow a madhab, to study a madhab? Here, now it's prohibited for a person to say, I'm Maliki. Hadith, Bukhari, Muslim. And there are no other hadiths which are authentic that go against these hadiths. There isn't a clash of the proof and evidence, a long scholastic debate. Imam Malik is saying people, scholars, knowledgeable people from Medina, and Bukhari, Muslim, Sahih Muslim, Hadith, Jabir, Abu Hurairah, this companion, the Prophet's wife, they all said, Sumi yawman qablu, so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Right? So therefore, no one can say, well, I'm not going to say that you can't or you shouldn't fast on Fridays because I'm Maliki. I come from Algeria, I'm Maliki, and Khalas. Or another issue, many people in the United States, they're so burnt out and they're so tired of this one name calling and this one refuting this one and this sheikh and this flan, and they go and they say, well, I'm going to be Maliki now. I want to study the proper fiqh. I want to have knowledge of the fiqh. I don't want to have Uthaymeen, bin Baz, Albani here and there, this brother, this da'i, this graduate. I want to be Maliki now. And then they say, I'm Maliki in an issue like this. You can't be Maliki here. And it's haram and it's a bid'ah to be Maliki here when the proof is concrete, directly in front of you. Just because the Imam or the disciples after him did not take that view, you can't just say it's okay because I'm Maliki, or Shafi'i, or Hanbali, or Hanafi, or any other thing. So once the Sunnah is authentically proven, and there's nothing to go against it, like I said, there's no other hadiths. There is no khilaf in our hadith. The proofs and evidences is crystal right to the point. فَيَتَعَيَّنَ الْقَوْلُ بِهِ. One must adopt that view. And he cannot say, I'm going to adopt the view of my Imam, the head of my madhab, etc. Then he says, وَمَالِكٌ مَعْذُورٌ. He says, and Imam Malik had an excuse here. He had an excuse. Imam Malik didn't hear about these hadiths. He didn't know about these hadiths. Those hadiths did not reach him. And then he quotes a Dawoodi from the disciples of Malik who said that Imam Malik never heard of those hadiths. And if he had heard of those hadiths, he wouldn't have went against those hadiths. Is that authentic? Is that accurate? Can someone say that Imam Malik didn't hear about these hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim, even though Imam Malik was before Bukhari and Muslim? And the hadiths before Imam Bukhari and Muslim were authentic. And many hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim narrate from Malik, or from the tariq of Malik, and are mentioned in the Muwatta. So were these hadiths hidden in Medina? Were they not in circulation? Malik, he didn't hear of them, but Bukhari and Muslim heard of them later on. Shafi'i, this one heard of them later on. Is that accurate? Can we actually say that all the time? Can we say that in every single instance? Of course, a great Imam like Malik and other scholars, they deserve excuses. We make an excuse for them. But does that mean that that's accurate? Can we say that about every single fiqh issue? Lam yablughu. It didn't reach him. Can we say that? Is that accurate? Every single fiqh issue? Sometimes it's clear the Imam doesn't know of the proof. He didn't hear of it. And there are other times in which a person says, can you say that he didn't hear about it? And which is clearly saying, Ra'aytu, waqad, yuqtada bihi, so on and so forth. But that's a different excuse. And it matters not whether he heard about it or whether he heard about it not. The hadith is clear. The hadiths are clear. They're authentic. And there's no mu'arid, there's no musawin lahu, there's no muqawim, there's nothing stronger or equal to it. We go with the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And we take from this here many things. First and foremost is a great scholar could be unaware of something. A great scholar could be unaware of something. And just because a man is a great imam and a great scholar, it doesn't mean that he knows everything and that he has comprehended everything and he has reached all things. It does not mean that. And those who feel that about their imams and their modern day sheikhs, even if they don't say it with their tongues, their behavior proves that, and Allah knows best. You say, well, we don't believe Sheikh Fulan is infallible. We don't believe that. We don't believe that Sheikh Fulan knows everything, but you act like it. Your behavior is clearly pointing in that direction. And the moment anything goes against any fatwa or any statement of Sheikh Fulan and Sheikh Alan, look how ignorantly and how nasty you behave against the opponent. Call him a name, insult him, kick him, throw him down the steps, roll him up in a carpet and burn him alive. Oh, billah, Hizbi, you hate the scholars, da 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 da. So how can you clearly say that you don't believe that he's infallible? You don't believe he's the only scholar. You don't believe he knows everything. You don't believe that he's the only one that can be right. But the moment someone makes the smallest opposition to the sheikh, you insult that person and you berate them horribly. Proven, and Allah knows best, that you might believe something other than that in your heart. And Allah surely knows what's in the heart. So you have to be careful. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, قال العلماء والحكمة في النهي عنه أن يوم الجمعة يوم دعاء وذكر وعبادة من الغسل والتبكير إلى الصلاة وانتظارها واستماع الخطبة وإكثار الذكر بعدها لقول الله تعالى فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا وغير ذلك من العبادات في يومها فاستحب الفطر فيه فيكون أعون له على هذه الوظائف وأدائها بنشاط أو بنشاط وانشراح لها والتذاذ بها من غير ملل ولا سآمة وهو نظير الحاج يوم عرفة بعرفة فإن السنة له الفطر كما سبق تقريره لهذه الحكمة. Now he says that the scholars say the wisdoms behind this day being prohibited for fasting, he says, is that the day of Jumu'ah is the day of supplication. It is a day of remembrance. It is a day of worship, such as offering the ghusl, making it to the masjid early, waiting for the khatib to come, listening to the khutbah, and mentioning Allah abundantly after the khutbah. After the khutbah, i.e., a person needs strength, a person needs energy, a person needs vigor. A person shouldn't be tired and thirsty and have a headache and have a migraine on that day unnecessarily. unnecessarily. Rather, a person should go into the ibadah with what? With energy, Moving forward, says here, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, what is translated to mean, and when the prayer is finished, then spread out throughout the land, spread in the earth, فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, go out and about, and seek Allah's bounty, and remember Allah abundantly. So this is something that many of us, I think we're heedless of, is that the day of Jumu'ah is a day of dhikr. How many of us make dhikr on Jumu'ah abundantly? We pray Jumu'ah, and that's it. Back to work, back to heedlessness, back to ghafla. So we have to be mindful of that, all right? Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, and there are other acts of ibadah which are recommended for that day. And that is why it is recommended to break the fast on that day for a person to have the strength to do the ibadah, and for a person to be energized, and for a person to be focused, وَالْتِذَاذٍ بِهَا, and to taste the sweetness of the ibadah. Meaning, it's not a task or a challenge getting up. Oh man, I gotta do this. I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, let me sleep. I'm thinking about food. My stomach is growling. He says, and this is just like fasting on the day of Arafah at Arafah. The Hajj, the pilgrim, he should not fast. Rather, he needs his strength and his energy to perform the act of ibadah and those other acts of ibadah on that day, as we have previously explained. Tayyib. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says here, فإن قيل لو كان كذلك لم يزل النهي والكراهة بصوم قبله أو بعده لبقاء المعنى. فالجواب أنه يحصل له بفضيلة الصوم الذي قبله وبعده ما يجبر ما قد يحصل من فتور أو تقصير في وظائف يوم الجمعة بسبب صومه. فهذا هو المعتمد في الحكمة في النهي عن إفراد صوم الجمعة. وقيل سببه خوف المبالغة في تعظيمه بحيث يفتتن به كما افتتن قوم بالسبت، وهذا ضعيف منتقض بصلاة الجمعة بغيرها مما هو مشهور من وظائف يوم الجمعة وتعظيمه. وقيل سبب النهي لئلا يعتقد وجوبه، وهذا ضعيف منتقض بصوم الاثنين فإنه يندب صومه ولا يلتفت إلى هذا الاحتمال البعيد. وبيوم عرفة ويوم عاشوراء وغير ذلك فالصواب ما قدمناه والله أعلم. Right, moving forward. Like we said, guys, please no comments or questions while the class is going on, inshallah ta'ala. Please keep the questions for the second stream, bidnillahi ta'ala. Moving forward. Now the problem comes up, and this once again shows us that your deduction, your act of deducing things, has to be consistent. It can't be wobbly and shaky. Your principles have to be in line. He says here, well, what if a person says, if you fast on Thursday or you fast on Saturday, won't you still be weak on Friday? Won't you still be hungry on Friday? Won't you still be thirsty on Friday? Won't you still have a migraine on Friday? What's the difference now? If that's the wisdom why you can't and shouldn't do it, then what's the difference between a day before or a day after? And this is one of the greatest things that a student of knowledge should train him or herself for, is iradul ishkalat wal jawab anha. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy and I'm proud that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave me the ability to study in the College of Hadith and have some of the finest teachers, walillahi alhamd, and they would drill us and train us with this. They would say that the student of knowledge has to train himself to bring up problems, bring up inconsistencies, bring up things which don't line up, and then answer them, and not turn a blind eye and run away from them, but to bring up the problematic issues and then answer them. That's the true training of a disciple of Hadith. Tayyib, he says here, well, what happens to Thursday and Saturday? He says that some scholars, they say, is that the shortcomings will be made up, they'll be covered, they'll be compensated for because of the Thursday fast or the Saturday fast. So it's playing a game with the numbers now. You lost some money here, but you made so much money there, so it patches each other up. You understand? This was a really good week, and this was a slow week. So it's balanced out. It's balanced out. So some weakness or some lack of vigor or lack of strength or lack of stamina that you may suffer from on Friday will be patched up by the virtue of the fast on Thursday and Saturday. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, this is the correct understanding of the wisdom behind this. And the other views, why it is prohibited, why it is disliked to fast on Jumu'ah, he says what? he says they're weak, and he mentions two of them. One of them is that Jumu'ah is not to be fasted on. One should not sing on the day of Jumu'ah unless someone will be put through an infatuation, a fitna, thinking that it's a day above and beyond what Allah made it, like Saturday, the Sabbath breakers. He says that's ba'id. He says that's weak. He says that's weak. The Jumu'ah and its virtue, that's weak. That takes precedence. Also, those who say that you shouldn't fast on Friday, for people not to think that it's obligatory to fast on Friday. He says, and that's also weak. And that's because there's so many other days which are not obligatory to fast, which are recommended to fast. And no one says you shouldn't fast Ashura, you shouldn't fast Arafah, you shouldn't do the 3 nights because we're afraid of someone thinking that it's obligatory. That's muntaqad. He says that's weak. That holds no validity. And once more we see, just because an interpretation is given on a hadith, and just because a scholar says something, it does not mean that that's the final say-so. It does not mean that that is scientific and that is parallel with all of the principles and all the proofs and evidences. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Then An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then goes on to speak about the night of Jumu'ah, which would be the eve of Saturday. And we're not going to mention that because those hadiths those hadiths are mentioned in Sahih Muslim, and they're not mentioned in Sahih Bukhari as well with regards to standing up and praying at night on Friday specifically. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Tayyib. From the fawaid that we get from that previously mentioned chapter is that from the sunnah is staying away from things. Just like there's a fi'l from the sunnah, there's also tark from the sunnah. And the sunnah isn't always green. Sometimes the sunnah is red and sometimes it's yellow. It's the act not to do. It's the sunnah not to do. It's best to stay away from intentionally. And it doesn't mean that you're lazy or you're lethargic or you hate worship, but there are times and priorities based off of the sunnah. So, from the sunnah is fi'l, and from the sunnah is tark. All the sunnah isn't driving forward. Some of the sunnah is to stop, and some of the sunnah is to reverse. Everybody clear on this? Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Also, this goes to show us is that one's mind and one's opinion is not to come before the text, nor is it to come along with the text. And that's because one could easily say it makes sense to fast on Jumu'ah. It's a virtuous day. Sa'atul Ijabah is in Jumu'ah. Best day of the week is Jumu'ah. Adam was created on Jumu'ah. Adam was placed in paradise, taken out of paradise on Jumu'ah. The last day will be on Jumu'ah. Khayru yawmin tala'at alayhi shams is Jumu'ah. So doesn't it make sense to fast? So the aql is not to come before the text. One's intellect, one's reasoning is not to be with the text, butting heads with the text. But it's to come after the text, to understand the text, to comprehend the text, to interpret the text, and to break it down, and to physically apply it. Everyone understand this? Now, this does not mean under any circumstance is that intelligence and smarts, thinking, reasoning, and systematic deducing or deduction has no place in the deen, as some amateuristic students of knowledge try to promote and propagate among the people. There is no intellect in a religion. There's no such thing as thinking or thought or view in a religion. You're not upon the sunnah and following the athar if you use the word to think and I think, and no, there's none of that. And he used the athar of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he said, لو كان الدين بالرأي لكان أسفل الخف أولى بالمسي من أعلاه. It said if the religion was based off of ra'i, opinion, the bottom of the leather sock would be wiped instead of the top of the sock. That's the famous tradition in the Sunan of Imam Abi Dawood. Many people, they don't realize is that there is an addition to this athar in the Sunan that says وَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَمْسَحُ عَلَى ظَاهِرِ خُفَّيْهِ, that I saw the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم wiping over the tops of his leather socks. So it's clearly proven that there's text to support that, and that thought that the bottom of the khuf should be wiped isn't necessarily a bad thought, but it is in contradiction to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the authentic sunnah. And there are weak hadiths talking about wiping over the top and the bottom of the khuf, which are not authentic. So what's important is aql, one's mind, one's thinking, it has a place in the religion. It does. One must be intelligent. And we mentioned from the Jarh wa Ta'dil of Ibn Abi Hatim, in the Taqdimatul Jarh wa Ta'dil, they talked about Imam Malik rahimahullah and his virtue. And they said, مَا رَأَيْتُ مُحَدِّثًا أَحْسَنَ عَقْلًا مِنْ Malik. I never saw a scholar of hadith who was smarter than Imam Malik and had a finer intelligence, finding tooth intelligence like Imam Malik. So intelligence is very important, extremely important. Seeking knowledge, how much you memorize, how much you have the ability to retain, and also to separate the different issues. It's like a divider versus throwing everything in and dividing it and squaring it off. That's based off of aql. Okay, التفريق بين المسائل المختلفة والجمع بين المسائل المتفقة. Okay, separating things which need to be separated and bringing things together which need to be brought together. That can only be based off of intelligence. And the smarter you are, inshallah, you're sincere, the harder you work, the more you study, the better student of knowledge, the better scholar you'll be. And the opposite is the opposite. So intelligence is a gift. And to be a successful student of knowledge, you need intelligence. So that's not what the scholars mean when they say that. And unfortunately, many people, they promote that. And they end up pushing the people away from being smart. Don't read books. Don't read no English books. Don't know nothing from the dunya. Don't quote anything else. Don't. And that's a problem. And many people, they may say that to people who come from backgrounds in which education isn't promoted. Or I never read anything. How many people they say this? I just watch and listen. I hate to read. I hate school. So if you didn't like school, you like reading before Islam, you come to Islam, you're on an incline now. And you're going uphill to read and be studious. And you're fighting a double battle now. Versus I loved studies, I loved the books, I love education before Islam, or before I was on the Sunnah, or before I went overseas, then that's better for you. So being studious, being intelligent is a blessing. The problem is when a person relies on his intellect too much. The problem is when a person does not refer to the text and stand upon the text. The problem comes in which the intellect comes before the text. The problem comes in when the intellect is butting heads with the text. Or the problem is when the intellect is off. When your mind, it's not even right. It's not even straight. It's not even correct. But sound intellect does not go against valid Islamic information. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We'll stop here now and try to take a few of your questions. Jazakumullahu khairan.